Поехали. So my name is Dmitry Jemerov, and I'm the principal engineer at JetBrains. And today I'm going to talk about the tools that we have built for 1 million developers. What those tools are, how we built them, and why the things seems to have worked nicely for us so far. So JetBrains as a company actually had very humble beginnings. So it was started in February of the year 2000 by three people who used to work at Together Soft and got to know each other there. And they were working also on development tools, large-scale Java code analysis, modeling, and so on tools. And they were not really happy with how those tools actually worked, and they set out to build an intelligent Java IDE. And they have met this goal when IntelliJ IDE 1.0 was first released in January 2001. So from a single product, by now we have grown quite a lot. So now we have more than 15 products, all in all, both released and still in development. We have approximately 1.8 million total active users. This does not mean like 1.88 million actual human beings using our products, because if someone uses multiple products like TeamCity and IntelliJ or UType and PHP Store, for example, they will be counted multiple times in the statistics, but you can imagine that the actual number of people using our products is still quite impressive. And as for the company employees, we have almost 500 employees across 5 offices. One is here in Munich. Their headquarters is in St. Petersburg, Russia. The main development center is in St. Petersburg, Russia, and we've got offices in Prague, in Moscow, and in Boston in the United States as well. So what products do we build now? What do we have now? So our products can be divided in 4 main families. So first of all, it's the Java-based IDEs, so to say the offspring of IntelliJ IDEA and all that has been built on top of that. The second one is .NET tools, Resharper, the plugin for Visual Studio, and a bunch of other tools that integrate with it. We also have a growing series of team development tools, which are server-side products, which are which you can install for your team on your server, or which you can have JetBrains host for you. And we even have our own programming language or languages, depending on what you consider to be a language. So let's look at those products in some more detail. So IntelliJ IDEA is our first product and it's our flagship product, and it's still one of the most important ones for the company, one of the largest, one of the best-selling ones. It's an IDE that has grown far beyond what its original feature set. It's not only a Java IDE, it's an IDE covering all of the technologies that can be used on the Java platform. It supports many different JVM-based languages such as Scala, Groovy, and so on. It also supports web development technologies, JavaScript, CSS, HTML. It supports a lot of enterprise development frameworks like Spring, Hibernate, and all that stuff. And all in all, it's a huge product that can cover a lot of needs of anyone building software on the Java platform. Beyond that, there is a whole bunch of other IDEs built on top of IntelliJ, which are essentially, in some sense, they can be called like lightweight versions of IntelliJ package for a specific market. So, like roughly in chronological order, so we started with RubyMine and PyCharm IDEs for Ruby and Rails and Python and Django developers. Then we have WebStorm and PHP Storm. So WebStorm is an IDE focused entirely on web development with JavaScript, CSS, HTML, web frameworks like Angular, JS are supported. Node.js development is supported. There is debugger for web application and so forth. PHP Storm is a PHP development IDE, as you should be able to guess. It supports like all that you might need to do with PHP applications. And AppCode is our IDE for iOS and macOS development for Objective-C, and it's starting to gain Swift support. Swift is a new language released by Apple recently. And the last 2 products are still available in early access preview or in beta, so they haven't reached the full production release yet. So the C-Line is our IDE for like regular cross-platform C and C++ development. And 0xDBE, I actually don't even know how to pronounce this properly. It's a code name, it's not a final name for the product. It's our database development tool. So it's a tool that lets you work with stored procedures in your database, refactor them, browse the data in your database, and so on. So it's like more of a DBA tool than a development tool, than a purely development tool. And one other product also built on top of the IntelliJ platform is Android Studio. So the final release of Android Studio was released this week, and it's actually quite an impressive feat. So actually, Google has taken the IntelliJ IDEA Community Edition, the free and open source version of IntelliJ, and built an IDE specifically for Android developers on top of that. And they have invested quite a lot of resources into it, so they have a fairly large team working on it by now, and Android Studio was in development for roughly 2 years and has finally reached the 1.0 release date. And this is now the official IDE for Android development. So like all the people developing software for one of the two major mobile development platforms in the world are going to use JetBrains tools. I think it's quite impressive. So now let's switch to the .NET side. So the flagship product for .NET is Resharper. It's a plugin for Visual Studio that offers intelligent code analysis, code refactoring, code completion, and so forth, so on and so forth. So essentially, the regular set of JetBrains mods adds this to Visual Studio for C# and for to some degree for other languages supported by Visual Studio, such as Visual Basic.NET. And Resharper also, by the way, has full web development support, so it also supports JavaScript and TypeScript and Razor and all the web technologies used in the Microsoft world. Beyond Resharper, we have a bunch of other tools for .NET developers. The first of them is .trace. It's a performance profiling tool. So if your .NET application is not performing well enough, you can use .trace to see why it is slow, what exactly is taking a lot of time, and how you can fix it. .memory is a very similar tool, but targeted for memory usage profiling rather than performance profiling. So you can investigate where objects are allocated, why they are allocated, why they stick in the memory for too long. And once again, you can very easily use this to understand how you can fix the problem and what can you do to reduce the memory use of your application and the garbage collection time. The next tool is .cover. It's actually a code coverage tool. So a code coverage tool is a tool that allows you to understand which parts of your application are covered by unit tests. And so if you have a piece of code, you can see how well tested it is, how likely it is that you will run into problems when you start using this code in production. And this can guide you to write better tests. It also has nice features like continuous coverage analysis, so you can always see, like in real time as you're editing the code, you can see whether your tests are passing, and if they are passing, like which parts of the code they cover. So the next group of tools is the server-side ones. So first of all is TeamCity. So TeamCity is our continuous integration server. So we'll have a more detailed presentation on TeamCity later today. But just to describe it briefly, it's a tool that continuously gets the latest versions of your software from the version control system, builds the software that runs the tests, and lets you know if everything is okay or not. And if there are passing, if you have some failing tests, it can offer you a lot of insights. Like it can help you identify specifically which change has caused the test to start failing, how long a test has been failing, and so on. It also tracks like which tests are taking the most time to run and so on. So it does a lot of like intelligent analysis on the state of your project and the state of the builds of your project. The next project is UTrack. It's an issue tracking tool. So of course there are a whole bunch of different issue tracking tools on the market, and mostly every team uses one. So why is UTrack interesting? So first of all, it has been designed for keyboard usage. So when you have a large number of issues, it's very important to be able to navigate the list of issues very quickly and look at different issues, see which ones of them are, which status or which operations need to be performed with them. And the keyboard-centric, comment-oriented interface of UTrack allows you to do this very efficiently. Second, UTrack is a programmable issue tracker, so it allows you to set up the specific workflows that you need for your project. You can program responses to different actions happening with your issues, responses to state changes, and so on. So you can customize it for the specific process that you have in your team or in your project. And also, UTrack offers quite a lot of overview analysis to get you a bird's eye view of the state of your project, like which developers have the most bugs assigned, like which areas are the most problematic, and so on. So we naturally at JetBrains we are using UTrack for all of our products. And finally, the new product that we have also just released this week is UpSource. So what is UpSource? UpSource is essentially a code browsing and code review tool. And on one hand, it follows in the footsteps of existing code review tools such as Fisheye and Crucible are very similar tools from Atlassian. There's also Gerrit and Fabricator and a bunch of other code review tools. But the unique feature of UpSource that distinguishes it from all of them is that UpSource actually understands your source code. So UpSource embeds the core of IntelliJ IDEA, all of its code analysis, smarts, and intelligence. And as you are looking at the code in your browser, it actually shows the results of inspections that are run on the server, so you can immediately see things like unused code that can throw null pointer exceptions, and many other kinds of problems. And obviously, when you are reviewing the code that your colleague has just written, it's very important to be able to see those kinds of problems so that you can point them out immediately and let the colleague know that they have done something wrong and they might want to fix it. So yeah, and beyond code reviews, UpSource, even if you don't use code reviews as a process in your team, UpSource is still very useful because it can give you a very nice way to browse your code base to see what code is used from where, like who's changing what code, or why certain pieces of the code appeared, and so on. So UpSource has just been released. We have a lot of plans for it. Right now it's focused on Java support, but it's going to add support for many other languages, as you might be able to guess by looking at the previous slides. So yeah, it's still very young, and we believe that it has a bright future ahead of it. The next product that I would like to mention is Project Coffin. So Coffin is a programming language that has been in development at JetBrains for the past several years. So doing Coffin justice would be like a whole separate presentation, but to mention briefly, like what's this all about? So it's a language that it's a modern object functional programming language that targets the Java virtual machine and JavaScript. So you can use it for developing any kinds of applications that you can do on the JVM, so server-side applications, libraries, IntelliJ IDEA plugins, for example, and all of that. You can also use it for web development, so you can compile it to JavaScript and run it on the web. And it works very nicely specifically for Android development. So if you want to develop a mobile application, if you don't really want to use Java, Kotlin is a great choice for that. So Kotlin is in essence a very pragmatic language. So it does not have a very deep theoretical background for most of its concepts. It does not have a lot of like research type features, but we have it's very pragmatic. So we have looked at the features that other people want to have in their programming languages, looked at the features that can help improve developer productivity, and we have taken the set of features that gives a nice way for people to build their software on, and we have implemented it in Kotlin. Of course, Kotlin has superior IDE support from the very beginning, so the language has been in development in parallel with the IntelliJ plugin. So yeah, you can rely on top-notch tooling in addition to having a great language from the very beginning. So if you're interested, maybe someday I could do a presentation here about Kotlin as well. Yeah, it's a very interesting topic for me personally because that's what I am working on right now at JetBrains. I am making it possible to use Kotlin for all of our development that's currently being done in Java. So having looked at the set of products that JetBrains has, let's look at the guiding principles that we actually use to build those products. So what are we after? The motto of the company is develop with pleasure. So we want to make sure that all our users are happy users and they actually enjoy their work when they're working on the piece on their application that they're building. So what does this mean? What is this composed of? So first of all, no one is happy when the tool is slow, when it's not responding adequately to the user input. So we put a lot of effort into making sure that all of our tools work nicely, have a great responsiveness, and always, and they never block you from doing your task. The next part is error reporting. So development tools are quite sophisticated, and it's very important that if there is some problem, that if you are doing something wrong, it's very important to indicate clearly what you are doing wrong and what you can do to correct this. And we have invested a lot into making sure that all the error messages given by our tools are clear and actionable and clearly guide you to what you need to do to resolve the error. Also, for common tasks, we need to have we have clear workflows so that you need to know exactly what you need to do to accomplish the task and how you can do this quickly. And also, set attention to detail is a key point. So this affects a lot of different pieces. The user interface, we put a lot of effort to making sure that the UI looks exactly right on different platforms and different operating systems. I don't know, the wording of the text in the user interface, a lot of this stuff, it's something that we try to make sure it's as clean and as polished as possible. Next part is intelligent tools. So we always claim that our tools are intelligent. What do we mean by that? Why are we calling them that? So first of all, we are calling them that because those tools understand the code. So for example, Vim is a very powerful tool. It's a great text editor, but it does not operate on the level of code. It operates on the level of words and paragraphs and sentences and essentially pieces of text. Our tools, on the contrary, operate on the level of statements and expressions and classes and functions and so on. So every time you work with a code, it's not just a text file, it's a program, and we handle it as a program and we let you deal with it as a program. Next, making use of implicit connections in the code. So what do I mean by that? For example, you can, I don't know, take an HTML file and a CSS page. So in an HTML file, you have certain style names and tag names and so on. And those style names correspond to the style names that you have in your CSS file. And if you are using, for example, just a text editor to edit your file, then those are completely disconnected. So you edit one file which references a class, you edit another file which uses the class, and only when you open the page in the browser are those two connected together, and you actually see the impact that you are making. On the other hand, if you are using WebStorm, for example, to edit your code, those are always connected. So when you are looking at a class file in a CSS file, you can always see where exactly it is used in your pages. And so if you're changing the style, you can see what pages are going to be affected by this change. So these two pieces of data are always connected. And finally, is the next part is recognizing problem patterns. So once again, programming is hard, and it's very easy to make mistakes when you're programming. And so what we are trying to do as much as possible is recognize the common patterns that represent mistakes when coding, or inefficient coding, or redundant coding, or code that used to be correct when it was written but is no longer necessary. We recognize those patterns, we highlight them immediately as you're editing the code, and we offer quick fixes. How can you make this right? How can you correct the error that you just made, or how can you make this code more efficient? There is no separate compilation step required for this to run. The results are not displayed somewhere on the web page that you have to remember to go to. All of this is displayed directly in the editor. The next principle that we have is polyglot development. So as you see, we support a very broad array of different technologies. We are not taking sides in technology debates. So for example, if you ask us which operating system is better, iOS or Android, we will not tell you. We support both. We support Android development, and in IntelliJ we support iOS development in app code. Even for our own technology. So for example, we are building our own language, Kotlin, which is to a large degree a competitor of Scala. So do we want Scala to fail? No, by no means. Actually, since we started working on Kotlin, the size of the team working at JetBrains on the Scala plugin has only increased. So like, let's let all the flowers bloom, let all the developers choose the technology that is most appropriate for their project, and JetBrains is going to provide tools so that they can remain in a familiar environment, and they can use the same keyboard shortcuts and set of features that they are familiar with, and with whatever technology that suits the project the best. The corollary to that is that even though we support everything, we are still targeting different markets specifically with the tools that are most appropriate for them. So all of the plugins that we have for different languages, they are available as plugins for IntelliJ Ultimate. So in principle, we could have one product, IntelliJ Ultimate, then we could let you install all of the plugins into it and work with any language out there. But it turns out that it's not what the users want. So if someone is a Python and Django developer, they don't want to install a big Java IDE with a lot of plugins and figure out how does it make sense for their small Python project. They want a Python IDE. And we are ready to offer them a Python IDE called PyCharm. And they install it, they run it, they see no mention of Java and JDK and all of those nasty words. And they can use it for many years without realizing that it's actually written in Java, and it actually uses the platform of a Java IDE. And they're happy with it. So we are putting a lot of effort into making sure that every target market sees the specific product that they want, and the product has the specific workflows that they want to, that are the best fit for their tasks. But still, the underlying thing to all of that is the IntelliJ platform. So as I mentioned, we started as a Java IDE, and then we spent a lot of time refactoring the code base and making it more extensible, so that every little feature that we have developed for Java, so that that is fully extensible and that it can work for any language that people may want to build support for. And the end result of this is actually quite wonderful, because we have a lot of synergy and a lot of cross-pollination between different technologies. So for every platform feature that we build, it immediately becomes available in many IDEs targeting many different languages. So the investment into building this feature-based manifold. And when you want to build the support of a new language, you are not starting from scratch. You have to build a number of key pieces, such as parser and lexer and reference resolution, without which nothing is possible. But once you have that, you get a lot of extra stuff for free. So I don't know, if you have find users, it's a very short step to having the rename refactoring, which is like the most basic and the most commonly used of the refactorings available in IntelliJ. It's very easy to get code completion. It's very easy to get many different features running just by doing a few basic steps necessary to write a plugin. So this allows us to very easily come up with new IDEs for new target markets as we identify them and as they become more and more popular. So how do we actually build our products? So one of the key principles for us is eating our own dog food. So for almost all of our products, we are the first users. And not only that, the products appeared because of a specific need that we had that we could not meet with any of the existing products. For example, .trace came into being because none of the .NET profilers existing at that time was able to cope with the Resharper CPU snapshots. It was just, they were too large, there was too much code in them, and so we had to build our own profiler tool to make sure that it works for us. Same story for TeamCity. The existing continuous integration tools were not adequate, and we built our own, and after that, a large market of different other tools has appeared, like Jenkins and Bamboo. TeamCity was actually the first of them. Same story with Coffin. So we built our language. We built our language because our own language because we are sick of Java and we did not want to continue building our software in Java, but none of the other languages was a better fit. And the important part of that is we we notice problems very quickly. So every IntelliJ developer starts their day with building a new version of IntelliJ from the latest sources from the repository. So if anything is broken, it gets reported right away and it gets fixed right away. And the product remains stable all the time. And of course, by using the products, we get a lot of ideas on how they can be made better. And often the developers either implement their ideas themselves or they file issues and their colleagues implement those as well. And it's not just ourselves as the users. We are also directly listening to other users of our products. During the development cycle of almost every product, we make available frequent early access preview builds that people can download and use for free. There is no registration involved, there is no money involved. Just grab it and use it. And if you run into problems, let us know. The issue tracker used for letting us know about the problems is completely public. You can see all of the activity, what people are working on, what problems have been reported by other users, and so on. We also have forums that are monitored by developers, and it's not only forums, we also follow the discussions on Twitter, on Reddit, Hacker News. You can just post something that you don't like about our products, and most likely someone from the company will see it and will respond to you and may actually file a track issue or just go and fix the problem for you. We also go to conferences, to user group meetings, so we always stay in touch with the communities of the technologies that we are supporting. So that was like the process part. Now just a little bit about our business. So what are the goals of JetBrains as a business? They are actually very simple. So up until recently, our goal was to get a million happy users. Now we probably have that already. So we are now out to get another million happy users. So that's the key part. It's not earning all the money. It's not like winning all the technology wars out there, getting everyone to stop using some other technology. Building great products, building products that our users are happy with, everything else follows from that. So if users are happy with the products, they're happy to pay for them, and they pay enough for JetBrains to be profitable. Actually, the interesting part is that JetBrains is a very old-fashioned company in a sense. We never took any venture capital funding or any outside funding, so we had a small amount of money as a bootstrap to develop the first version of our product. And after that, we are spending what we have earned, nothing more. And also, the customers of our products are directly the users of our products. It's not advertisers, it's not some other company. We are not subsidizing one product to help drive the sales of another one. We are spending what we earn, and we are selling the goods that we make. It's like a very old-fashioned but very successful for us approach. And there is a direct relationship between our products and company revenue. So if our products start to suck, then we just go out of business, and that's it. So we have to make sure that we build good products so that we don't actually go out of business. Also, it's very important we have a friendly licensing model. So we provide plenty of ways to use our products for free. So, for example, you as students, you can just download any of our products, register with your university email, and use any of the products for free as long as you're studying here. There are also many other ways to get licenses. We have open source licenses. Many of our products have free licenses for small teams. Once again, we try not to put obstacles in the way of users. If you want to use our products, you usually can find a way to do that, even if you don't earn a lot of money and you cannot afford to pay a lot for a lot. So we want to make it as easy as possible to buy our stuff. Also, a significant percent of what we are doing is open source. It's not everything, of course, because there is no good way to release everything as open source and still earns enough money to be able to do everything that we are doing. But with the community edition, we have calculated that approximately 60% of IntelliJ code is open source. So we actually have this comprises two full products. So there's IntelliJ community edition, PyCharm community edition. So the Java ID and the Python ID both have completely open source and free editions. The important part of that is that it makes it easy for us to support plugin developers so that people can build stuff that integrates with our products. And it also enables important partnerships such as Android Studio. So people can very easily take the source and build their own stuff on top of that. And even if the stuff is commercial, you can usually find a way to work together and make it mutually beneficial. And what's particularly important is that when we released IntelliJ IDEA Community Edition for the first time in 2009, we actually expected a drop in sales. We expected that some people would decide that they no longer want to spend their money on the Ultimate Edition, they can just switch to the free Community Edition. But this never happened. So we got a bunch of new users for the Community Edition, that's true, and we also got an increase of the sales of the Ultimate Edition. Why? You can probably guess why. So people see that they can trust the tools, and they still find the stuff that is available in the Ultimate Edition valuable. And the same story repeated with PyCharm when we released PyCharm Community Edition. So it's very broadly used, so its usage exceeds that of the Ultimate Edition, but of the Professional Edition of PyCharm. But still, the sales of the PyCharm Professional Edition have not decreased after the release of the open source version. So to summarize, so how are we able to be successful? So first of all, we target the needs of essentially all the developers out there, all the developers that are using technology with significant market share. So no matter what you are using, no matter what stack you are on, we likely have a tool that lets you do your job more productively. To make sure that this is actually more productive, we are using all our products internally, and we listen to feedback from our users, and we let you influence the direction in which our products are evolving. And finally, we are using the good old-fashioned business model of earning profits by selling stuff to people, and this allows us to remain profitable and to stay in business for all of those years. So, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them now, or feel free to drop me an email or ping me on Twitter or anything else. Like there's plenty of ways to find me on the internet. So, thanks for your attention, and that was it. Вот, собственно, 31 минута, 32 почти. Как раз примерно то, на что я рассчитывал по времени. И, наверное, можно мне сейчас написать фидбэк в чатик или в френдфидик или еще куда-нибудь. Вот, а тут я, наверное, отключаюсь. Всем спасибо, кто пришел послушать, и спасибо за внимание. Всем пока.